All right, this is a update video for V2 of the Off the Apps automation agent. Basically, quick overview. It is an agent that will aggregate the events that I see around town and then consolidate them twice a week and output for me a post that I can copy and paste and put up on Instagram. I was sick of seeing all these events around town posted in weird, obscure places like Facebook, flyers at coffee shops, things like that. And so I wanted to make a bot to do all that for me. It seemed like a fun project. We'll go into a little bit more detail on how it works, but just as a reminder, I set up a Telegram bot. This serves as the trigger of it. You can see I've got an event that was an Instagram post. You can also see it has multiple events in it. We'll get back to that in a second. When that event gets triggered, what happens is it automatically pipes it into Google Drive, stores the image so I have it to reference later. I also have a ChatGPT optical character recognition bot analyze the image. It is able to handle if there's other or multiple images in there. It's a pretty lengthy prompt. You can see over here, if we can expand that. So I have it referenced today, put in some defaults. It's got some general rules, especially around, I want to be able to give people credit for it. So there's the poster handle. There's data normalization as it goes in, making it Instagram ready, so trimming some of the fat on it. Efficiency, I give it an output schema. This is all pretty intricate stuff. And then I just account for some edge cases. Next, because each time that occurs, it's going to create a separate item. So it's going to hit these, and I'll eventually need to loop over them at the end, because for every one of those 4 events, like I showed here, this will essentially run it multiple times. Next, I go in, I edit the fields. I just have to do some JSON parsing because what gets barfed out by ChatGPT doesn't look great. It's not super readable from a data standpoint. It's more like what you'd think is a text response. I merge those two things together. That way I can get both the file ID, the hosting link, and then also all the information I've gotten here. Then go into a pretty lengthy code piece. This does a lot of things. Flattens the events. It attaches all this, the source file links all into one data block. And it also basically passes what I'm using as the image ID or the Telegram event ID. I'm using it as the row ID because it's almost always, it's a unique number I needed or I wanted for the events database. A lot of this, not going to lie, was written by ChatGPT. There's a lot of back and forth that I'm doing in this. But let's go out of this step. So like I said, for every event that's on that flyer that I upload, it needs to loop through it multiple times. So that's what this does. Appends a new row into a database that I set up. And then it also sends me an update. So you can see for these 4 events, I then have the events that were being uploaded, the cost of it, information like the time. You can see this was just pulling all the event text out. That was also helpful for me to do some data hygiene a little bit later on, which I was able to refine, and I don't think I'm going to need to be doing that anymore. This is an older test that I had. All right, now let's take a look at the database. So if you come in here, and let's look at that. So 44 events so far. I have a bunch of different fields in here. Some of them, things like if I added an external description, say I saw this as just on a TV at a bar, which is one of the examples that I have that says, who it is, but I might add into that let's add the description in the message that's who should be tagged in it because there wasn't a tag for it. So it just automatically added it. But it keeps all that title, location, time, if there's age restrictions, the cost of it, who to tag, what kind of vibe is going on there, because I want to use that later in how I prompt the AI to write the post that I'm going to have. If it's recurring, that's really important because some of these events happen every Tuesday. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. And then, if there's a blurb that I want to put in there and post on Reddit, I have a confidence score on how good does it grade itself on how well it did, and then what, if any field issues. That's a debugging thing at the end of it. But let's talk about the next step. We're going to get into another automation, but I want to show you that the little data refining, this is just a copy of that other spreadsheet. This is just a formula. If we get to the top one, it just filters it out and says, give me only the events that are either recurring, so we know that there could be in this group. There's always a Tuesday. and or like get everything that's later than today. So all future events is what I call this spreadsheet. Every week on Thursday and on Sunday, and just for debugging, if I choose to run this at another time, this is going to automatically run. If I do choose to run this on, say, like a Wednesday, it has the logic built in to say, oh, you're probably looking for the weekend event schedule. You're just getting a head start on it. Or if I fall like a little bit behind and it's a Friday, even though it should have triggered that already, it knows to do that. But it goes and it grabs all those rows. You can see of those like 50 items I had in there, it pulled 47 of them out that were either recurring or future. And then it normalizes the data. Now, there's a lot going on in here. So we're not going to get into all of that. Just know that it fixes a lot of the problems that normally happen because we need this to go in downstream a bit better. So that trims it all down. It has the intelligence to say, is it on the weekend? Is it during the week? Like, because it knows which post I'm trying to do next based off of that code. Like I said, this block does a lot. And then it aggregates it all into one because it runs, this is like a loop going across a different item for each of the times. So it aggregates it all into one item. It flattens it all out. This is what I thought was completely bananas because I'm going to have a prompt go into ChatGPT. But as I was working on this, it's like that prompt is going to be like a little bit dynamic. And yes, I could add some variables inside of there, but what if this was just code to build that prompt for me? And so you can see the output of this one is like the prompt text. Don't worry about those /ns and the other slashes and stuff like that. ChatGPT actually does pretty decent dealing with stuff like that. But it guarantees that I'm going to have some emojis at the beginning of the event. This gets a lot of the formatting in before it gets into the prompt. Asks the model to return if I like some fallbacks. So like if it can't find a caption for the event, then it falls back to my description. If it can't find that, maybe it just figures out what was the vibe text so that it can just create something of its own based off of location and what event type it is and stuff like that. Like I said, this does a lot of logic for me just based on like the data that's coming into it. Moving on, we go into the actual prompt. This one's surprisingly simple because it's mostly just pulling in what it was. Now, I learned a new thing, which was there's different prompt types. It actually has two prompts. One's that's the system that just prepares it for the prompt that's going to come in. And the next one is it says, okay, this is the prompt. And it really is just taking prompt text that was generated by that last one, pumping it in there, and it comes out with the next one. This is not pretty. I wanted it to be copy and pasteable so that I can just get it on, say like I'm sitting somewhere else and copy and paste everything into Canva. So we'll talk about that in a bit. So I format this into a binary file and then I convert it, upload it. It goes into Google Drive. There's a naming convention where in Google Drive it's the date, the time that I did it, so that like if I'm hammering off a bunch of tests at once, it makes unique files. But check this out. This weekend in Stillwater, it gives me the dates. It says your cheat sheet, save this, share this. This is almost like copy and paste the description of my post. It has all of the mentions that I need in it to give credit. It has all the hashtags in it of all the other things that were in there. It has a day-by-day calendar that I can also use, and I'll show you where I use that next. So in Canva, this is the template that I used for last week. I said this week in Stillwater, 8th to 12th. I can basically go in and say, well, for this week, let's just pull that text in. This week in Stillwater, bop, 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 and say, and like, am I super concerned about those two pieces of text being not really the same? Not really, because that just saved me a ton of time. And I can go in, and I can put in other stuff like that. Pop that. But you can see it has like for Monday, the date, then it's the different types. And that's for 3 events. This one's got 2, this one's got 4. But I can basically start every week with a template where I have 5 events, my maximum amount that I'm going to have on each day. That's built into the code. And I can just put in the time, the title, the description, gets that. And then when I do post, I just export this, upload it into Instagram, dang near just copy and paste that document, and then it has everyone tagged, everyone's happy, and I think it looks pretty good. Would love to hear your thoughts.